Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining our monthly community webcast. I'm Jürgen Kress, part of the Oracle product management team. In case you missed one of our webcasts, on-demand recordings are available. For details, please see our monthly community newsletter and subscribe to the Oracle Video Hub partner channel. In today's presentation, Anthony Reynolds will present the latest Oracle integration features, including events, projects, parallel processing, and native actions for OCI services. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Jürgen. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for getting up early. So it's exciting time for Integration 3.
It is. Lots of new features, lots of new capabilities rolling out every release, and excited to talk about some of them today.
How many instances of Oracle Integration 3 are already online in production?
So for OIC3, the latest generation, we have more than 1,000 instances deployed. And we're just having our first customers going live over the last few months.
Excellent. So Oracle Integration provides pre-built connectivity to SaaS and on-premise applications like Oracle, HCM, CX, ERP, eBusiness or PeopleSoft. Objective of the call is to update you on the latest features, demos, and best practices. So let's get started. Please pay attention to the Oracle Safe Harbor statement. Please do blog and tweet about features which are available today. Quick housekeeping. Please ask your questions via the Q&A tool. We will use the chat for announcements. Share your feedback via the Zoom survey at the end of the webcast. Recording and slides will be available via the community website and Oracle Video Hub. For today's agenda, I will start with a quick community update and hand over to Anthony to give us all the nice demos about Oracle Integration 3. We will answer your questions at the end of the webcast. Registration for Oracle Cloud World is open. The conference takes place September 18th to 21st in Las Vegas, USA. Call for papers is open for this week. Please submit your papers by Friday, and we recommend to feature best practices and customer success. Oracle is recognized as the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for integration platforms services worldwide. Thank you very much. We could not have done this without your support. You can receive the report via bit.ly/Gartner OIC. We continue to offer 3-day hands-on trainings for SaaS consultants. The goal of these workshops is to train you hands-on and to build a proof concept and to become a certified expert. Upcoming schedules include Bangalore this week. It's an in-class training, April 27th and 28th. APAC and EMEA, May 2nd, 4th and 9th. And for Europe, Middle East and Africa, May 16th, 18th and 23rd. For registration, please see the community newsletter or my blog posts. The latest April edition of the Partner Community newsletter is published. It includes all the upcoming events, trainings, best practices, and much more material. In case you didn't receive it, please subscribe at tinyurl.com/oracleic. As a community member, you can access our web page with all information, including the newsletter, trainings, webcasts, the Slack channel, documentation, and much more information like today's presentation in PowerPoint format. On the digital assistant side, we also offer the hands-on training, and new schedules will be announced soon via the community newsletter. One upcoming training will take place May 3rd in Portuguese for South America. The latest newsletter is also published for Digital Assistant, our enterprise chatbot tool, and the website is updated. Today's presentation is live, and an on-demand recording will be available at Oracle Video Hub. With this short introduction, I would like to hand over to you, Anthony.
All right, so what I'd like to do is start off giving you a quick overview of what capabilities we've recently deployed or are about to deploy. And so you have a view of what's new and what's coming. And then we'll spend the bulk of our time on demos. So within our roadmap, we organize it around a number of themes. So first theme is OIC and OPA3 rollout. So this is what we're doing to help customers upgrade from Gen 2 to Gen 3, what we're doing to make sure that we have parity and full backwards compatibility with Gen 2. Next roadmap item is hyperautomation. OIC is part of a platform. We talk about OPA, we've talked about digital assistant, but we have other components. We have object storage, functions, AI services. Hyperautomation is making it very easy from within the integration tooling to pull all these other services into a single solution. So that's what the hyperautomation focuses on. SaaS enablement. Most of our customers have at least one Oracle SaaS application. And so we do a lot of work to make it very easy to uptake these with accelerators, which are pre-built solutions, something that we're rolling out for partners to build as well, so that you'll be able to monetize some of your IP around pre-built solutions and put them into the Oracle store. It also covers things where we have a number of enhancements to simplify deployment of SaaS applications alongside Oracle integration. Operations, or keeping the lights on, is things that make it easier to run your integration solutions. Functional innovations are the new capabilities. And with Oracle's acquisition of Cerner, we now have a focus on healthcare. At the moment, this is early stages, but you'll see increasing number of capabilities coming into the healthcare space over the next 6 to 12 months. As a reminder, OIC3 is updated every 2 months. And so we are currently, we have just rolling out the production versions of the 2304 release. So that's the April 2023 release. So the first number is the year 2023. The second number is the month. And then we release it in 2 waves. The first window is all the non-production shape instances. When you create an OIC3 instance, you define a shape which is production or non-production. So for the non-production, those roll out first, and then 2 weeks later, we roll out the production shapes, so the update to all the production shapes. So this is where we are now. So let's talk about what features we've added in integration. So over the last 2 releases, the 2212, 2302, you can now provision Visual Builder. And we've also rolled out B2B capabilities as part of OIC3. In addition, you can now start and stop instances. We have improved our payload support. So now we currently support 50 megabyte payloads for most adapters. And we are continuing to test, and we hope to be able to announce very, very soon in the next month or so that we will have 100 megabyte support. So that will significantly increase the size of messages that you can process. We'll talk about projects later in the session. We'll have a demo of that, but we've also added a native parallel action so that you can do things such as fire off requests to a car rental company, a hotel company, and a air transport or airline, and gather all those results back. And the queries will all execute in parallel. So you can reduce the latency, makes it much more responsive if you're using OIC as an orchestration tool that is behind a mobile application or a portal. If we look at where we are, 2304, as I say, is rolled out now to all pre-production shapes, and we are currently rolling it out to production shapes. So key things. First one is an event subsystem. We're very excited about this, and we'll talk about it later in the broadcast. This is a replacement for PubSub. Native support for OCI capabilities. The first of these that we're delivering is OCI functions. And so that's available as part of 2304, but we will be adding support for object storage, for queues in the future, and other OCI services. Another one that we'll talk about today is Fusion Apps Event Monitor. As many of you are probably aware, the Fusion applications have an event handling framework. Those events can be subscribed to from OIC, but you can't see the event queues in Fusion Apps, either from Fusion Apps itself or from OIC. And so we've rolled out this new capability that for the first time ever gives Fusion applications customers visibility of their events, and we surface it through OIC. So we are currently working on allow list support for OIC3 to support limiting what IP addresses VCNs can access an OIC instance. We also are working on a private endpoint, and we'll talk about that later. So lots of new things coming out. Let's also talk about what's going on around the connectivity space. We've talked previously about the core integration. As always in the connectivity space, new adapters are rolling out. We've enabled pretty much all of the Gen 2 adapters now are available in OIC3. We've made enhancements to support certificates, for example, with the HANA adapter. We've rolled out projects is very important for us. For our pre-built enablement, projects is going to be the way we deliver accelerators in the future. And that makes it very easy. We'll have a demo of that, how easy it is to have multiple versions and support those. We've done a number of security enhancements across existing adapters and updated the adapters to reflect changes in the underlying application. And so lots and lots going on. Very excited to say that we now have an intelligent advisor adapter. It's all enabled for OIC3 together with track and trace. We've added support for the Amazon selling partner security policy in the REST adapter. And so this is important if you're pushing things in as a seller into Amazon. We now support that through the REST adapter, their specific security. Also, an OData adapter, the first release of that is rolling out in 2304, and we'll do a demo of that later today. We're also making it possible if you've got packages and you want to convert them to a project, we're going to support that in 2304. And so that's a significant way for you to move from the flat namespace that we have in Gen 2 to the project scoped namespaces in OIC3. And we'll talk about that. But first of all, let's talk about OData. OData has been adopted by both SAP and Microsoft. It's a very flexible way of querying and discovering resources. It's a REST-based protocol and is getting very popular in the REST-based world for applications to provide this. So rather than provide specific OData adapters for every endpoint, we've provided a generic OData adapter that works with multiple endpoints. So you can use it with SAP, with various Microsoft apps. So you don't have to have a specific SAP adapter, for example. This generic OData adapter will work for SAP, for Microsoft, Magento, for other use cases. It makes it much easier. The great thing about OData is it gives you a very flexible way of querying the data, but that comes at some complexity in the data structures. And so we hide that for you using the adapter. Currently, we're supporting just the outbound capabilities. So you can query OData version 2. We will be in the future adding support for version 4 endpoints, and we will also be supporting OData as an inbound trigger. So Okay. So here we've got an OData adapter all set up, ready to go. You can see here, this is a SuccessFactors application that we're talking to. So as we go through, we can see that we can support the different security policies that would be needed. And then within here, I've got an invoke using the adapter. And so I can go through. In this case, we're querying employee information. And so as we go through, let's drill down into this. So we see it's the OData adapter here. So if we go into the adapter, we can see that we can choose different operations. These are all standard OData type operations that we can support. In this case, we're going to do a query. We can then immediately go in and say, okay, what entity do we want to query? We can see all the entities, and so we can choose. So again, this is using OData to introspect what's available in the application. And so we'll go ahead. In this case, we've got the employee job setting chosen. We can then choose how we want to select data within this. So in this case, we're going to choose the employee status, assessment status, and the code of job. So we can filter on all of those. And then we choose what data we want in the response, so that you don't have to pull every field back, and this makes the mappings cleaner and easier. We also, you can include number of metadata parameters that can also be added in here. So for example, we can say, I only want the first 10 records, or I want to skip the first 10 records. And so these different ones. Alternatively, we can apply a filter to say, hey, I want to further restrict so that I'm only looking, for example, in the US region or in Spain. So OData, as you can see, is a very powerful querying tool. We've got a lot of fine-grained control over the data that we show. Let's just speed this along a bit. We can, if we want to, put in specific request headers. Usually you don't need those. We don't need the response headers, so we'll skip through those quickly. And then we get a quick summary at the end as to what happened. So once we've done that, let's actually go and run this and see how well it actually works. So we'll go and activate the instance. Notice in OIC3, we have slightly different logging options. Okay, refresh it so that we can see that, yes, it's active. We'll go in and run. Now, we could in here, we didn't specify any parameters in our trigger. If we had, we could have mapped those to the parameters we chose. And we see it comes back very, very quickly. And so we can see here that we've got a number of results from SuccessFactors. If we wanted to, we could go in and we could have queried, for example, on the sequence number. This is, if we scroll down, we'll see that we have sequence number 1 appears multiple times. So we could say, show me all the sequence number 1s. And that would be possible for us to do from the querying as well. So that's OData. Let's move on. So that's exciting new query language that we're supporting now in OIC. Let's now talk about projects. So within projects, you can think of projects as a virtual OIC instance. Let's see, is that? Yeah. Okay, so when we go to an OIC instance, we see here that we have projects available. If I wanted to, I could go and add a new project, or I could import a project archive file. So if I create a project, just like creating an integration, it automatically generates an identifier. I can give it keywords if I want to. And then I just go in here and it takes me straight in. First thing you notice about a project is that all my key artifacts are visible in one place. And so let's go back quickly. Let's pick another project. Let's sort by name. Okay, so here's a project I prepared earlier. So here we can see we've got lookups, libraries, connections, and integrations are all scoped in the context of a project. So you can think of this as a virtual OIC instance. So this is the design. We can go in and edit these, activate them. We still have versions. So if I wanted to, I could go in here and say, create a new version. So all the versioning you had with integrations continues to work. But now when you call an integration, it has a project scope so that when you make a REST call, and let's have a look, we can also expand if we want to see all 8 of them. Here we can see this is an active integration. So if I were to go to the run, we notice that in here, we have this project and the project name. This means that I can now have 2 integrations with the same name in my OIC instance, as long as they have separate projects. So this makes, this is what I mean when I say it's a virtual OIC instance. Let's go back and look at deployments. Deployment allows you to collect a specific set of integrations. And so let's go and create a deployment. By default, we pick the highest major version of every integration and mark those as available. And then for that major version, we choose the highest minor version. If I don't want something, I can go, for example, to here and say, nope, I don't want this integration at all. Don't want this one. Don't want this one. So now I've just got 2 integrations, and in here, I say, oh, I did want that one, and I can choose the specific version I want. So let's go back in, and then we can give this deploy. So now when we look at this, we see that we've got 3 integrations will be part of this deployment. And so if I save that, so the deployment was successfully created. So there's the partner demo, and one option is I can now export this. So I can export it as developed. One of the things that we're adding is that if you're a partner, we will be adding in the future the ability for you to export it as a pre-built. And that means that you'll be able to limit the changes that a customer can make to it, and that they will be able to just make updates in specific areas. We can also, we can clone that if we want to create another deployment, but these deployments are how you would then move from dev to test to production. And so notice, we go back at the project level, I can import, and what we're importing is actually a deployment. So this is how you'd move from dev to test to production, is you would use your deployments. We also have observability, so that we can see everything related to just this project. These items will also appear in the global space as well. Hit the apply button always. Okay, and obviously I have not been using this frequently enough. But if we run some content through, we would see this and we could, oh, I know why. I'd run them all on debug level setting and they only last for a day. Okay, so that's projects, lots of new capabilities in there. Events is another key feature that we've delivered in 2304. So this you can think of as a modern replacement for PubSub. So here, let's run through. So here we go in events, currently at a top level. We can go in and create a new event, give it a name, it automatically generates the identifier, and then we define an event in terms of a JSON structure. We can upload a file to give us a sample JSON, or we can type it in the JSON editor. And so here we've got an event that's already defined. We can view it. And we can also check who's subscribing and who's publishing to it. So if we go in, we can actually edit events after they've been created. And so here we could go in and edit it in the event editor. Or we could just replace the event with a later version of a sample file. So let's actually go and see how we'd use an event. So first of all, let's look at how we generate an event from within an integration. So we've got a little integration here we've called publish event. On our actions, it's down in the call section. So it's treated like an integration or a JSON library that you want to call. In this case, we have a publish event activity. When we drag it on, it automatically drops the map for us so that we can map the data to the event. We can go in and look at this. We choose which event type we actually want to publish. And so if we were to go in and look at this, we can either define a new event from here as well, so we don't have to navigate to the event screen, or we can choose an existing event. So let's save that and activate that instance so that it's ready to run. We have a new event driven orchestration. So these listen for an event, and when the event arrives, we start running. And so in this case, we've got one that we've started. So we've got a subscribe to events integration here using the event orchestration pattern. And in this case, we can see that it's been set up to subscribe to the same event type one that we had in our publish. And again, just like in the publish, you can either define a new event or choose from an existing event. If you define a new event, it takes you to the event creation screen we saw earlier. So now let's take these out and activate both of them. And so the activation, let's skip to where they're activated and then they run. Okay, so we've come into the run, we're putting a value in here. So this was the parameter that we put into our REST trigger. We can now go ahead and run that. If we've got, if this was a post, you'd see the payload. So let's run it. You notice that the publish event will appear in the activity stream. So we see there that it started processing and it was published. And we can actually expand that out. We can see that the message was published. And we will be supporting the payload visibility, so you'll be able to see the message that was published as well. We can also skip forward. So close out of this. We go back up. We go into the monitoring screens, observability. We can can see here that the subscribed event also ran. So there's our publish event. We can see that we had one REST trigger, we processed it and it was successful. And we can see that we also now had a subscribed event that executed. So that's all that we have for on the event demo. Let's move forward. Native OCI actions. So native OCI comes in with things such as functions, and let's explain it a little bit better. So functions, object storage is all done via REST APIs. Previously, we supported these through having a REST adapter that supported the OCI signature. However, it would be really nice if we could just drag and drop things directly from the canvas, and that we were able to use something called resource principal security tokens. So basically this says we allow Oracle instance, Oracle OIC instance to call this function. So we don't have to create a connection. We do set up a dynamic group policy, but we need to set up a policy anyway if we were going to call functions. It also means we don't need to store the any user credentials, because we are doing it in the context of the OIC integration instance. And so let's go in and have a look at a functions demo. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we need to go in and we've set up a policy statement to allow a particular dynamic group of which the OIC instance is a member of to manage the functions family in an OIC compartment. Now, we've got a simple trigger in here where we're just going to pass some data in. So we'll quickly go through, show you that if we wanted to, what we're doing is we're going to use an object storage file zip function to take a file, zip it up. So take a file in object storage, zip it and put it back into object storage. And so we're using this sample function that's provided by the object storage team to do exactly that. And because functions don't support, so when we drag it in, it appears again as something that you can call the same way as events and local invokes appear. So we're going to call it invoke function. We choose which region. So we support cross-region calls. We then choose the compartment that we want. So in this case, we're checking which compartment it's in. So we go in and look at our function. We can see that it's in this compartment. And so we can choose the right compartment now. Again, we can see the applications that are available in that compartment and the function. So those we're all able to introspect. Now, because functions don't by default provide an open API spec, we need to grab the sample payload. So we're going to grab this sample payload from the function, put it in as payload content. Similarly, for the response, we're going to grab that and paste it in as payload content. At this point, it automatically generated the map activity for us, and we can go through and let's quickly do some mapping as to which bucket and which file in the bucket we actually want to zip up. So now we get the response. Let's just quickly map the response to see whether we're successful or not. And so we can drag these across very quickly and there we go. There's our mapping all done. So now we can save the work that we've done. we'll go back, activate the integration. Refresh. Okay, it's active, so we can now go in and run the integration. Okay, we've got a number of values that were pre-populated here. So we can go and look at our bucket. This has got a list of demo objects to zip up. So you can see there's our antisocialites.jpg amongst others. And so we can see we've got a list of the files that we want to zip up. Those files existed, we just saw in the object storage. Again, we tell it exactly the location of the object storage and the source and the target bucket. So we now run that. We can see that it's successfully executed. So now let's go back to object storage and look at the target bucket. And there we see that it's successfully zipped up the result. So that's how easy it is to call functions. And so you can imagine that this is a great way to extend the capabilities of your OIC instance. There's a particular calculation or function that or task that you need to do. It's not available as a canvas item in OIC. You can write a function to do it and just call the function from OIC. So it's a great way of extending the capabilities of the platform. Okay, we are going through at a very good pace today. There's 2 items that I put at the end. I don't have demos for these as we're just enabling them now in different environments. But the first one is private endpoint. You're probably all very familiar with the connectivity agent. And quick update on the connectivity agent for you. You will notice in OIC3 that you no longer need to provide credentials for the connectivity agent. You also do not have to configure it with your OIC endpoint. We automatically provide a configuration file for you that includes OAuth credentials dedicated to that specific connectivity agent group, and also the endpoint of the OIC instance. You just download that and the connectivity agent runtime, and away you go. The only time you would need to do configuration in the agent is if you need to enter a proxy server, because we've no idea about your proxy servers, but everything else we know about and we can provide in the config file. So that makes the connectivity agent quick and easy way of getting access to things. However, we also need to make sure that the challenge with the connectivity agent is that it adds an extra step. So everything goes through the connectivity agent, and it's a phone home model. So we're always doing a long poll into OIC. Private endpoint allows us to place our OIC instance onto an OCI virtual network. And so to use this, we first of all create a private endpoint to a private subnet in the OCI console. So you need to have a VCN to use this. So this will not work for SaaS tenancies unless they have a related UC tenancy. However, it will work for all your UC tenancies. And so we're just enabling this in the next few days. When creating a connection, you'll be able to choose a private endpoint as a connectivity option. And so here we are on the control plane. We can see here that we've chosen a virtual cloud network, and we also have chosen a subnet that we want to drop our OIC instance onto. So this is only for egress from OIC that we use the private endpoint currently. So once the private endpoint is set up, we can then go into an adapter, and a number of adapters already support private endpoint. This includes the REST adapter, and a number of the database adapters, including ATP. We will be adding SOAP and Fusion apps, and the intention is eventually to have pretty much all of the adapters available. But for now, it's a subset of them. And here we have an additional access type. So you used to be able to choose, am I using a connectivity agent? Well, now we've added the ability to use a private gateway. In other words, to connect endpoints via the private endpoint, as opposed to a public gateway where we're going out over the internet to get to things. So this is where we can figure that up. And then from this point on, you'll be able to connect to this ATP instance, which only has a private IP address. It's not on the internet, but I can connect to it now without an agent by using my private endpoint and private gateway connectivity in the adapter settings. So that is private endpoints. The last thing I'd like to talk about today is Fusion Applications event monitoring. Now, I'm sure many of you have used the ERP Cloud, Engagement Cloud adapters for kicking off orchestrations based on events. Often, though, if something goes wrong, it's hard to figure out, well, did the event get lost between Fusion apps and OIC, or did Fusion apps not properly create the event? What happened here? And that can be hard to find. So starting in 2304, we're giving you the ability and your customers the ability to view the status of these events. And this will help significantly in diagnosis of missing event type problems. And so what does it look like? And so we have event details in, so this is a screenshot from an OIC instance. So within here, I can see that there's a couple of events that are in the event queue in Fusion Applications. So I can see Fusion Applications has created the event, but the problem is I didn't get the event. And why? Oh, there seems to be some problem with Fusion Applications calling my OIC instance. So now we know that the problem may be some configuration in Fusion apps is not correct to let it call us. It may be that we didn't allow this Fusion app and it's been blocked by the integration instance. There's a number of possible things that we could start to drill down in as we look more detail at the reason. But immediately we're much better off than today, where we've no idea whether the event was not created, whether the event got lost on the way, or whether it was silently consumed by OIC and destroyed for some reason. So this is going to really help you in solving problems with your events. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to Jürgen, and we can perhaps find some Q&A time.
Anthony, thanks for the impressive demos. And thanks for the overview of the new features. They're exciting to see. So yes, we have a couple of questions, and if you have questions, you still can post them in the Q&A tool. To wrap up the call before we come to the Q&A, please make sure that you register for the integration partner community to receive all the benefits like the upcoming hands-on trainings, the boot camps, to get access to our Slack channel, and also to receive the community newsletter and the invite for today's webcast. We activated a free trial for you. So if you want to try Oracle Integration 3, you can go to cloud.oracle.com/try it, and please enter the same email address that you registered for this community webcast. And then you get access to a free trial of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and you can provision Oracle Integration 3. Make use of the documentation, and in the documentation, you will find live labs that provide you with a great start to get started with Oracle Integration 3. If you have questions, post them at our Slack channel. And if you want the latest customer presentation for Oracle Integration 3 in PowerPoint format, you can find it at Sales Accelerator. All information is provided at our community website. So as a community member, you get access to our community website. So a couple of questions, Anthony. So we had several questions regarding the availability of Oracle Visual Builder in Integration 3. Is it already available, and does it include all the features?
Yes, so today, Visual Builder is available for you to provision as part of OIC3. And from within Visual Builder, you can browse for, discover, and invoke integrations within the integration portion of OIC. There are a couple of issues that we're working on resolving at the moment. One of them is that we are enforcing cores much more aggressively now. And so if you are using, because we now have VB and OIC integration as two separate URLs, you now need to configure cores for any OIC integrations that are being used by Visual Builder, because Visual Builder normally makes those calls directly from the browser. Alternatively, there's an option where you can tell it to use, have VB make the call from the server side to OIC, but that's not recommended. It slows you down and is not the best way. But other than that, you have the full functionality of Visual Builder. This is the Visual Builder Gen 2 that was released a couple of months ago. It's now part of OIC3. It does not currently support upgrade. We are working with the VB team to support upgrading a Gen 2 OIC instance to take all your VB artifacts and data from OIC Gen 2 into OIC3 so that your Visual Builder will behave exactly as it does there. We do not currently upgrade those instances. They marked as ineligible for upgrade because you're using Visual Builder. So I hope that answered all the Visual Builder questions. I did see there were several of them along the way.
Yeah, excellent, thanks. So talking about upgrades, which instances are eligible for upgrade to integration 3?
Okay, so in Gen 2, we added in the settings section a new upgrade screen. And so in the upgrade screen, you can actually see the status of your instance as to whether it's eligible for upgrade or not. And if it's not eligible, why is it not eligible? And sometimes it will just be, well, we don't support upgrade in Visual Builder yet. So that's why it's not eligible. When it becomes eligible, it then becomes a candidate internally for upgrade. We are limiting the number of upgrades that we do. We're targeting around about 1,000 a month at the moment of upgrades. The reason for this is that we want to make sure that the upgrade process goes smoothly for everyone. We don't want to find unexpected problems and not be able to fix them quickly and immediately. It also, we are choosing to say, until all the instances in a tenancy are eligible for upgrade, we're not going to give you the option to upgrade, because there are new features in OIC3 that are not available in Gen 2. So if you start building something in OIC3 and then try and deploy it to a Gen 2 production, it will not work because those features aren't there. So we are trying to do the upgrades of all the instances in a tenancy over a short time period. And you would probably want to say, and where we can detect it, we typically would try and schedule the non-production instances before the production instances.
Okay, cool. Max would like to know regarding the upgrade process, if it's an automatic process or how it works. Is it required to provision a new instance?
Okay, so when you will see, you'll get a bunch of dates available for you to choose for upgrade. When you choose one of those dates, there are a couple of things you need to do ahead of time. If you are using allow lists in target applications, we will provide you, we're trying to get it now at least 2 weeks, and ideally a month is what we're trying to do, is the IP addresses of your new OIC3 instance before it's even been migrated. And so that gives you time to update allow lists. Once that's done, we will automatically do the migration for you. So our target is 15 minutes downtime. The way we achieve this is that we move a lot of the content across. And so we ask you not to make a lot of changes shortly before the upgrade. The reason for this is that we try and take snapshots of your instance before the upgrade. If you've made a lot of changes since we took the snapshot, we will struggle to meet our 15-minute target for your downtime for the upgrade, because we do apply any deltas from the last snapshot we took to the new instance before we complete the upgrade. If there are any problems with the upgrade, we will automatically roll you back.
Cool. So is there a timeline when only Integration 3 instances will be available for new projects, or can we still choose Integration 2 instances?
You can still choose OIC Gen 2 instances. If you have a new tenancy, there are a couple of regions that only support OIC 3, but most regions support both OIC 3 and Gen 2. If you have no Gen 2 instances in a region, you will see both Gen 2 and OIC 3 as an option. If you have a Gen 2 instance in a region, then you will not see OIC 3, because we didn't want to confuse customers and have them create an OIC 3 instance as a new dev environment and then discover they couldn't deploy it to their existing Gen 2. So that's, if you, however, want to provision an OIC 3 and you already have Gen 2 in your region, raise an SR. Twice a week, we run a batch job to update customers who've requested it so that they will have both Gen 2 and OIC 3 available, even if they have existing Gen 2 instances. So if you don't see OIC 3, you can ask for it. Just provide the OSID of your tenancy and the region where you want it enabled.
Okay, moving forward from upgrades to Oracle events in integration. So is Oracle events already available in Integration 3?
It should be available in all your, for those of you that have non-production, it should be available there today. And for those that have production environments, it should be rolling out very shortly.
So you showed some use cases how to use Oracle events in Oracle SaaS. Can it be used also for third-party applications like Salesforce or SAP?
Okay, let's clarify that. So we showed introspecting the event handling framework in Fusion Apps. So that was the last thing that I showed. What we plan on doing, and this is a roadmap item, is we want to make it so that a Fusion application event appears as an OIC event. We want to do the same with OCI events. We want to do the same with other applications as well, so that in the future, you will just be dealing with one set of events. So for example, if a file arrives in the file server, our intention is that rather than have a file-driven orchestration, you'll use an event-driven orchestration and subscribe to a future file-arrived event. Together with a filter to say which folder you were interested in. So events is moving along. We're just in our first release at the moment. There's a 12-month roadmap we have for all the cool things we want to add to events so that it becomes seamless to work with Fusion Apps or Files or Salesforce or other systems. So yes, the intention is we'll support not just FA, but other apps in the future as well. But not for the visibility part, because obviously we don't have that kind of access to the other apps, but we have it to Fusion Apps.
Then Fusion Apps business events are pre-configured by Oracle, or a customer can customize them?
Okay, it depends on the application. So a number of these are pre-defined.
Okay. Moving on, is Oracle Process part of Integration 3, or when will it be available?
Okay, so let me answer this first. So Process will be available as part of 2304 with things like Process and VB and private endpoints. Because they're configured from the control plane, we need to wait until the production instance has rolled out, because it's no point us configuring private endpoints on the control plane and then discovering that your production instance can't actually use them in the adapter because the code hasn't been deployed there yet. And so there's a number of features that we have a delay on. So Process will be available in the next couple of weeks as we roll out the production shapes to 2304.1.
And it's available today standalone?
Yes. Yeah, OPA is available standalone, but it will be available to provision as part of OIC. The same with Visual Builder, and I saw a Visual Builder question. Visual Builder, you have to explicitly provision it now from the control plane in the same way that you used to do that in Gen 2. Process now also needs to be explicitly provisioned in the control plane, the same way that Visual Builder did in Gen 2. So you should see that provisioning option in your control plane for VB, and it will shortly be appearing for OPA for Process.
Okay. You showed a nice demo for OCI functions and native support. Are there any prerequisites?
So you obviously have to have a function to call. You have to set up the policy. So you basically have a dynamic group of which your OIC instance should be a member. And then you grant, at the very least, I can't think what the invoke privilege is, but at the very least, it needs to have the ability to discover and call OCI functions. And so that policy needs to be set in the OCI identity policy management.
Okay.
Other than that, no prereqs.
That's easy. Stefan Weigel would like to know regarding OCI Gen 3 access control lists, any availability schedules?
Okay, we are currently targeting this for our 2308 release. This is a very high priority for us. And so we've made some significant changes to the way things are done in OIC3. The bad news is that means it's taken us longer than we would like to implement the ACL. The good news is that we are also aiming to support ACLs for file server, self-service ACLs for file server in this 2308 release. So taking longer than we'd like, but you'll get more functionality that will be self-service.
Excellent. Last question, is it possible to automate Node.js program process within Fusion SaaS?
No, sure, this is really a Oracle integration
question. Yeah. So we will connect you with the SaaS team. Then the last question is, as the connectivity agent is for on-premise integration, can you also connect SaaS to SaaS with it? Or what would be the...
Not quite sure I understand this question.
Yeah, so to clarify it, the connectivity agent is really to connect on-premise applications. And for SaaS integration, we offer the SaaS adapters.
Yes. The one thing that I will add is that the private endpoint in the future will support SaaS applications as well. And the reason for this is that if you want to bring your own NAT gateway and have your own network access control rules, and we have a number of financial services customers that want to do this, so you'd be able to send even what you would think of as internet traffic over your own OCI virtual network, and then you could add additional rules. For example, we have one customer that does not want you to be able to access social media sites. So by sending all their traffic over the private endpoint, which is a capability we'll have in the future, they'd be able to put explicit rules in to block access to those as part of their network access rules, network security group.
Anthony, thank you very much for the wonderful webcast. Thank you everybody for attending. Thanks for the live demos. That is amazing. Here's again an overview of the integration resources for customers and partners, so please make use of them. And if you have further questions, you can reach out to the local team. Neil Kominski for Europe, Middle East and Africa, Ravi Pinto for Asia, Paolo Mota for South America, Ravi Chaplani in North America, US and Canada, and Steve Tyndall for APAC. For partner questions, please reach out to myself. Thanks for attending today's webcast. It was great to see again so many attendees. The next webcast will be in May, last Tuesday, and please complete the online survey once you leave. Thank you for attending.